Hey guys, it's Andy here, and we're back looking at decks in Standard. This is a Rakdos mid-range deck that I put together for you guys. I'm just going to touch over the main deck here, talk about the sideboard, interactions between, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. I've actually been playing this deck on Arena, and it's been winning quite a bit. It started off as a mono-black deck built around Spawn of Mayhem, but it wasn't working the way that I wanted it to, so I went into Rakdos, and it works so much better. So Spawn of Mayhem, one of the namesakes of the deck, affectionately named Rakdos of Mayhem, after this big guy. For 4, 2 and 2 black, it's a 4/4 demon with Spectacle 3, so you can play it for 1 and 2 black. If an opponent has lost life this turn, it's got Flying and Trample, and at the beginning of your upkeep, Spawn of Mayhem deals 1 damage to each player, and then if you have 10 or less life, put a +1/+1 counter on Spawn of Mayhem. This card is an absolute all-star in this deck. Being able to play a 4/4 with Flying and Trample at a 3 cost is an insanely good rate. Definitely want to be running this guy in a 4 of. Also running 4 copies of Footlight Fiend, which is for 1 hybrid, so black or red. It's a 1/1 devil with when it dies it deals 1 damage to any target. 2 copies of Midnight Reaper, which is for 3, 2 and a black. It's a 3/2 zombie knight. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Midnight Reaper deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. And 2 copies of Plague Crafter, which is for 3, 2 and a black. It's a 3/2 human shaman. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and each player who can't discards a card. Also bit of removal in the deck, or pseudo removal. Being able to hit their hand in the early game as well if they haven't got any creatures. Really good card all around. Along with the Spawn of Mayhem, we're also running a slew of flying creatures in the forms of Doom Whisperer, which is for 5 mana, a 6/6 flying trample, pay 2 life to surveil 2. Rekindling Phoenix for that recurable 4/3 flying threat. At 4 mana, 2 and 2 red. When it dies, you create a 0/1 red elemental creature token with, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature and then return a card named Rekindling Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. I've got a couple more of these in the sideboard, so if we are in the more controlling matchups, the Doom Whisperers just go straight out and the Rekindling Phoenixes come in because they're a more recurable threat. And I'm also running 2 copies of Kitesail Freebooter in the main deck here, which is for 2, 1 and a black. 1/2 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, and then you exile that card until Kitesail leaves the battlefield. This is another card that I'm running a couple of copies in the sideboard. Again, for the control matchups, if we go up against them, that's when these guys can just go out of the deck. Fireblade Artist, which is for Rakdos colors. It's a 2/2 with haste, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, it deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. This actually came in quite handy against a couple of different control matchups running stuff like Teferi and that, because if we're sacrificing, say, Footlight Fiend to the Fireblade ability, then we're able to ping Planeswalker for 3 damage, and a lot of them will dance around the 3 loyalty marks. So apart from the fact that it's a hasty creature that plays on the low end of the curve, it can actually do quite a bit of damage, and it's really useful against Planeswalker matchups. We're running some fairly effective draw card in the form of Risk Factor, which is for 3, 2 and a red. At instant speed, target opponent can have it deal 4 damage to them, or we draw 3 cards, and it's got Jumpstart, so we can cast it again from our graveyard by discarding a card as an additional cost. Increasing the clock by 4 damage is actually a really big deal, and they eventually get low enough that they have to let us draw the cards, and then we just get more and more advantage out of it. Insanely good card. I absolutely love Risk Factor for the draw card. Bedevil, which is for 3, 2 black and a red. At instant speed, you destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. But the wide range of removal that this allows us to have in the deck is insane. It's a really good card. Drillbit in a 3 of for 2 and a black. At sorcery speed, you can play it for a spectacle cost of 1 black. So if an opponent's taken damage this turn or lost life this turn, you can play it for 1 black. And then its target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. 2 copies of Bedeck to Bedazzle, which is for either 2 hybrid or for 6. At instant speed, target creature gets +3, -3 until end of turn. Really good bit of removal. And then Bedazzle is for 6, 4, a black and a red. At instant speed, you destroy target non-basic land, and then Bedazzle deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. 2 copies of Angrath the Flame Chained, which is for 5, 3, a black and a red. It's a 4 loyalty planeswalker, with its +1 ability being each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. Its -3 ability is gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it, it gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step if its command mana costs 3 or less. And Angrath's -8 ability is each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in his or her graveyard. Not something that you're usually going to get to, just being able to ping our opponent for a couple of damage every turn and make them discard a card. Against control, it's usually pretty good. The -3 is insanely good in the right matchup, but overall I just think Angrath is a really good planeswalker. 2 copies of Theatre of Horrors, which is for 3, 1, a black and a red. It's an enchantment that sits on the battlefield, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you exile the top card of your library. During your turn, if an opponent lost life this turn, you may play the cards exiled with Theatre of Horrors. And it's got pay 4, 3 and a red, to deal 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. And to finish off the spells, we're running 2 copies of Cry of the Carnarium, which is for 1 and 2 black. At sorcery speed, all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. Exile all creature cards in all graveyards that were put there from the battlefield this turn. If a creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Cry of the Carnarium, really good sweeper. To finish off the deck, looking at the land base, we have 4 copies of Dragon Skull Summit. Comes in tapped unless you control a swamp or mountain. 4 copies of Blood Crypt, which is a swamp mountain, comes in tapped unless you pay 2 life. And then 7 swamps and 7 mountains. I haven't been playing this with a sideboard on Arena, so this is just something I've knocked up. Just if I was to put a sideboard, this would probably be pretty close to what it'd be. So 4 copies of Duress for the control matchups, just for 1 black at sorcery speed. Target opponent reveals their hand, you choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, that player discards that card. Sorcerer's Spyglass for the Planeswalker matchups. For 2 mana you play it, and then you can look at an opponent's hand and name any card name. Activated abilities of sources of the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities, so it just shuts down Planeswalkers. Really good for that. The other 2 copies of Rekindling Phoenix that I mentioned, 2 copies of Kite Sail Freebooter that I mentioned, 2 copies of Vicious Rumors. I actually really like this card. It's for 1 black, at sorcery speed it deals 1 damage to an opponent. They each discard a card, and they put the top card of the library into their graveyard, and you gain a life. So this is a 4 for 1 at 1 black mana. So yes, it's pinging for 1 damage, which is going to get us the Spectacle triggers. It's making them discard a card, which could be something useful, or otherwise we don't really care. They mill the top card, which again could be another useful card, and we get to gain a life. I love everything about this card except the fact that it's not instant speed. And 2 copies of Banefire to finish off the sideboard here, which is for X and 1 red at sorcery speed. Banefire deals X damage to any target, and if X is 5 or more, this spell can't be countered and the damage can't be prevented. So that is the sideboard, and that is the main deck, and that is Rakdos of Mayhem in Standard. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to see new videos as they were released. If you like what I do and you want to support the channel, you can throw me $1 on my Patreon at patreon.com/SandersQuest. And I will see you guys in the next video. Keep questing, guys.